Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Hey, all, we got a very sad request, and if any of you would be kind enough, because I'm not a therapist, which I'm going to recommend this young man go see, but if any of you have something similar, or you're just older, wiser, because, you know, I'm only 41, let's help this guy out with our comments below, and provide whatever additional insights you can for this guy, because this guy's really hurting. Hi, Aaron. Hope everything you're doing is well and fine. I know this request might be a bit delicate in comparison with other topics that you elaborate on. However, as pathetic as it sounds, I do actually need some psychological advice from you, because I do know that you don't tolerate bullshit, and if necessary, you will kick my ass in order to put me back on my feet. Dude, I'm not going to kick your ass. You're down, man. My father died 2 months ago from a heart attack. I personally cannot move forward with my life because of certain guilt and regrets that has arisen with the death of my father. I worked my ass off for the last 3 years. Now, this guy's only 23, so he started when he was 20, or 19, depending on the math. I worked my ass off for the last 3 years building capital gains, starting college computer science, and hustling my way out of poverty. I was separated from my father all this time due to different location. In his final years, I supported him financially. And the kid's already going to school and getting out of poverty. Now I support him financially as much as I could, but still every day he would call me and said that he loved me and begged me to come visit him. But stupid me, being a certified workaholic, I did not allow myself to visit him or take a break from work. My goal in 2016 was to raise enough money to bring him to me and support him in his final days. Alright, this kid, who's going to college, doesn't have a lot of money, obviously no time, is still going to try to bring his dad home to live with him. However, being only 23 years old, I did not accumulate that much capital, so basically I failed. My father died, and his final statement was that he missed me. Now I cannot get over this guilt of putting him aside. My work performance is going down the drain. Hell, I don't know if I can move on. So that being said, please give me some perspective. Thank you. And I'm not going to mention your last name. Now, I asked him some questions because it's one thing to get, you kind of, here's the answer, but let's delve a little more. I said, why didn't you grow up with both a mother and a father around? 2, how old was your father when he passed? 3, did you know he was gravely ill? 4, what did he do with his life, career, work, etc.? 5, what is the background of your mom? And he answered some of these partially. My folks got divorced when I was 10. My dad was pretty much self-employed until the great economic fall of 2010. At 20, I left my original country to a better Western country in order to get and survive. All right, so you left your country so that you could make more money, so that maybe you could then support your father. My mom is working with me as a self-employed, as a cleaner. Video response. My father had a very stressful life with his own nightclub. I'm not going to mention his medical condition either. Dealing with debt. But most of all, his great downfall last year is pretty much alone. My folks got divorced when I was 10. The reason, honestly, is that he was crazy with alcohol. I also remember beatings and violence, but he changed into a better version of himself in the last year. So here's what I put together, and I dislike organizing things, but when I organize things, it means I want to be very thorough. It doesn't mean I don't like my responses or my off-the-cuff, unrehearsed responses, but I do want to make sure that I give you as much information. I can't give you a solution. I'm going to try to give you solutions, but you're going to find out why these solutions are the only solutions you have, but very unlikely to work, and there really is only one solution. So, all right, first, what you've got to realize is that you took on an impossible task. You were not going to succeed, no matter what you wanted, okay? It was impossible what you were trying to do. And as you found out, now, the only mistake you did was love and idealism, love for your father, and a desire to get out of poverty. That was the only mistake you did. But nonetheless, it was a mistake, and there was no way you were going to win this, dude. There was just no way. All right? So you have to forgive yourself in that particular capacity. You are not going to succeed. at this at all. You're 23, you're going to college, you come from a foreign country, you move to another country, and you're working as a cleaner. The math isn't there. It's mathematically impossible. And you're in computer science. You know math is math. It's impossible. So whereas it was great, you did the best you absolutely could, but it just was not going to happen. You were not going to get your dad there. All right, now you may feel bad that you didn't go and visit your dad, but it was because you were trying to spend more time with your father. So there's this concept of delayed gratification. Yes, I can go spend some money to go visit my dad, but that won't solve the problem. If I can work up the money to get dad to come live with me, then dad will be able to spend all the time with me. And that's why I asked you, like, how long was he sick? And so I'm just going to speculate, I don't know. But you don't determine when people die. The only time you determine when you die is when you commit suicide. That's the only time. And it's just bad luck, something outside of your control, that your dad had a heart attack and died like that. My grandma died when she was 49. Of course, I wasn't old enough to remember it. I was 1. But no one sees that coming. Someone gets hit by a car. I could get hit by a truck yesterday. Certainly people will mourn, but they're not going to blame me. So, you know, the surprise heart attack at this relatively young age, if you're 23, I know he had diabetes and all this other stuff, but it's you know, you don't control when people die. And so your plan could have been more legitimate, where it's like, yes, I'm going to work up the money as a computer scientist, make the money, have dad come live. So you thought you had more time? You didn't. God or fate, the world just decided you didn't. And so once again, outside of your control. All right. So you gotta forgive yourself. You're not at fault here. All right. And on top of it, I bet the drinking probably led to the premature heart condition and the death. So it's his fault. He died early. I mean, I know you may love your dad, but it's his fault, probably, likely. I mean, I don't know where the diabetes came from, if his diet was bad, but there's that. Now, the other thing is your parents failed you. Your parents put you, you're trying to work yourself out of poverty. What the goal of every parent should be is so that their children don't really have to work themselves out of poverty. I'm not saying they have to pay for the children's life, but they should provide a nuclear family, a stable upbringing, and the wisdom to either do where the same thing where the parents were successful, or the wisdom to tell them not to do the things that parents did where they failed. And your parents never got around to that point. Your parents got divorced when you were 10, so they're both failures. I know you love your dad, maybe you love your mom. I don't know, but they failed you. You came from, not only what you were trying to, let's say you came from a nuclear family and you wanted to do this, and your parents were middle income, well-to-do, not poor, not divorced. You still wouldn't have been able to do this. But then the fact that they provide you a broken home, a dysfunctional family, your dad's an alcoholic, there was beating and violence, there's no way. There's no way. You not only had to do run an impossible distance, you had to run it uphill. And it just wasn't going to happen. Okay? So, one, again, forgive yourself, because it was so outside of your control to do anything about this, to achieve this. But two, I'm not asking you to find reasons for hatred of your father or your parents, but they did fail you. And now you feel bad for people that treated you like shit, basically. He beat you, and there was violence in the household. He was an alcoholic. Your parents couldn't stick together for the sake of you and any siblings you have. As someone who is not part of the family, I don't have blood in this. Blood is thicker than water. But as an outside observer, your dad kind of sounded like a loser. Now, you did point out there was some repentance. He changed his life, and maybe then that's where you developed a good, functional, healthy relationship. But getting back to you and your guilt is 100% irrational, not only because the task was impossible, but your dad brought this largely upon by himself. And the position they put you in, from such coming from behind, you are completely 100% forgiven in this. All right? Now, this then leads to the reason really for your guilt. Because if you had a guy that beat me, divorced my mom, and it wasn't a genetic father, like let's say we could have this kind of human that wasn't your father, but would still divorce your mom, destroy your family, and beat you, and was an alcoholic, as a guy walking down the street, I'd probably kill him if I could get away with it. If not, I'd certainly beat him up, and I'd have nothing to do. I wouldn't care if the guy was dead. I mean, that's it. So that type of removed father, a non-familial relationship father, is obviously different where it's your own dad. And this gets to the genetic explanation. Blood is thicker than water. You are programmed to love your parents and your family. Why? Because it's what's kept you alive and humans alive for the past 2 million years of evolution. It's what keeps animals alive in all of society. This is why the mama bear protects her cubs, even though it may be irrational. The cub may be a complete fucking dick. Actually, I got a brother who's just a fucking loser. Parents still bail him out every time, give him all the resources of the world, constant forgiveness. The guy's a fucking criminal piece of shit scumbag. But it's genetics. That's what it is. So you have 2 million years of evolution saying, hey, you got to stick with your dad because your dad is going to protect you. And that's what dads typically did. They protected the kids. So whether you consciously think it or not, like this part of your brain, this part right here, this from here on, and that part, the frontal lobes, that's the logical part of the brain. From here back, the remaining 80%, that is just screaming at you, love your dad, love your dad, love your dad. You want to be with your dad, you want to reconcile with your dad. It's not logical, it doesn't make any sense, and that's where the problem is. That's where your guilt is coming from. You wanted to be with your dad, and you know what? You wouldn't be human if you didn't. The issue is, can you have these frontal lobes override the back lobes? And the problem is, you can't, because this is genetics. This is 100% genetics, all right? Look at a chick with big tits, long legs, and pouty lips. How do you not turn your head? How are you not attracted to that? You cannot not be attracted to it, just as you cannot not want to be with your dad. So we can talk about it all we want. I can provide all the arguments and point out all the evidence why your dad was a loser, your dad was an asshole, your dad had it coming, and it wasn't your fault, and it was impossible for you to do this. That's not going to override this because it'll register here. You'll know it, but it won't solve the pain and the agony that you feel in your heart. Okay? So, how do you go about solving that? Okay. 1, constantly repeat to yourself, you did all that you could. Invariably, you could start to understand and slowly chip away at the guilt and the pain and the misery. And one of those things is to grant yourself forgiveness and to understand, hey, I did the best I could. And this is not my opinion, kid. This is not my opinion. I think everybody down below in the comment section, unless they're dipshits and trolls, they're going to voice like, yeah, I mean, the opinion of the judgment of public opinion is 100% on your side because it's true. It's just true. It's not even debatable. You did more than anyone ever could to the point that it was impossible to do it. So keep telling yourself because it's true, it isn't your fault. Again, I'm not saying that to make you feel better. I'm saying it's because it's true. And you got to tell you this every day. Every time you feel a bit of guilt or shit, you say, it's not my fault. If anything, it was bad timing. Like you had this grandiose plan and then your dad checked out early. So it's not your fault. Another thing that's going to help is time. It's just going to take time. I've gone through devastating instances in my life. And it does. I don't care how many people talk to you and this and that. It's just time. That's what's going to do it. It's just time. And so you're going to have to accept the fact. Don't think there's a pill. Don't think this video is going to do it. For quite some time, this is going to... Until you're dead. I mean, there'll be this like tug of guilt. Because again, you're never going to fully override 80% of your brain and your genetics. You could control it. You can push it down. You can rationalize a lot of it. You can explain a lot of it. But you will always have that tug of like, shit, I wish I could have seen my dad. I wish I would have saw my dad. That's normal. Again, you wouldn't be human if you weren't that. But time will inevitably get it. It's going to take some time. So don't think tomorrow you're going to be, Cappy Cat made a video. Oh, everything's great now. I wish that we could put the pharmaceutical companies out of business. Therapy. Go talk to a therapist. I don't know if it's in your budget. Go talk to a therapist. I'm not a big fan of therapists. I don't believe much in psychology. But I do believe in some instances it's important to get therapy, to get an unbiased third-party individual. Now, you don't have to go to an actual therapist. If you're religious, go talk to your priest or pastor or whatever you worship. Maybe talk to some friends, although they're biased and they'll be at a loss for words because they won't know what to say. So if you have the resources at your school, maybe there's a counselor or something you can talk to. But gosh almighty, I mean, honestly, get a guy. Get a fucking guy. Don't get a gal. The reason is not because I hate women or anything like that. It's in part I don't believe most women go into psychology because they genuinely care about people. So they go in because it's easy and they think I'm just a people person. But women don't have the same brains as men. You need a guy. That's the main reason. And women should go see women's psychology. Oprah, all right. But you need to talk to a male therapist, and preferably not an effeminate one. I'm not talking gay. You can see a gay therapist. I'm talking like, if he's walking like this, but he's straight. Yeah, no. Find like an old military guy. Find some guy who's got his ass kicked in life. Find some guy who's been through shit. Like an old, wise, very quiet, astute type of guy. Takes it in. It does this. That's more than that thing. What? Oh, the Alcoholic's Prayer. What is it? It basically is, say it every day so you realize things are and are not in your control. And those that are not in your control, that you're not responsible for them. So learn the Alcoholic's Prayer. Also, constantly remind yourself you cannot override your genetics. Just like that tall piece of ass with those nice succulent titties, you're going to want that. You're just going to want to hit that. And except that's never going to go away. So that's always going to be with you. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Because again, you wouldn't be human otherwise. And then what I would really do is to get over this, you've got to turn it around and focus on yourself. You've got to put a lot of, like when I went through the worst part of my life, I was running 10 miles a day and working out 2 hours a day, then teaching dance classes, and then doing a security gig on top of it. I did not let my brain sit for 1 minute without being occupied with something else. When I ran, I had podcasts going on. I looked good naked back then. I looked really good. But I didn't want to, I couldn't deal with it. Just could not do it. Because then you get depressed, then you get down. You have got to go put your effort into work, put your effort into your studies. Those are your friends now. Those are your new friends that you will constantly work towards and keep your mind off of it. This doesn't mean you don't think about it. It doesn't mean you don't, but your brain, you can't just dwell in this. You can't mire and stew in it because it will debilitate you. You've got to make sure you don't think about it for a while. I shouldn't say that. You got to keep your mind focused on your life and your future. You have a right to life too. You got to keep your life going. That's what I would recommend. So, focus on your future, focus on your studies, focus on your job, help out your ma, hang out with your friends, get out, do something, join a club, stay active, but then also realize you have a life too. Okay, your dad chose these certain choices and paths in life. You didn't get to decide whether you were born or not. All right? But you're here, and you have a right to life, and you can't let this ruin your life, and your dad wouldn't want you to ruin your life either. He'd want you to move on and like, hey, and if you believe in God in the afterlife, you're going to see him anyway, so that's comforting. So I would focus on yourself, focus on your family, because if you don't get out of this, you will ruin your life. It will ruin your life. I think you're a stronger man than that. I don't think you have to worry about that. But please focus on your life and things that you can do and have a little bit of fun and go out with family, go out with friends. Focus on your studies, focus on work, do your best. And if you start feeling a little bit down, go for a run. You start feeling a little bit down, hit the gym. You feel a little bit down, take another college class. Something. Stay on it. So I'm sorry, I wish I could give you a pill and it would all go away. I wish this video would do the same, but it isn't. It's just these are just the observations of assessing it and more importantly, understanding it's not your fault and realizing what happened and then also accepting the fact you're human and you're not a robot and that people it's not like uploading a patch and you've solved the computer virus. It's going to take a while for you to get out of this. And if you do things like give it time, stay active, hang out with family and friends, get some therapy, acknowledge it's not your fault. Those are whatever advice I gave there before, that combination, that cocktail of advice is the best way I personally know how to get out of it. Okay? Therapists might have another idea, like, oh, go and practice Zen and yoga. I don't know. Therapists might have a bit. But you do need to talk to a therapist because they understand there is an aspect of genuine validity. I mean, like neurology, behavioral, Freud, I don't know. But go talk to them on account that it's good to have a third party opinion. So, all right, hope that helps and hope some people got some advice down below. Best of luck to you, kid. Toodles.